Vidhammer Fantasy.
Welcome back to Vidhammer. I'm Spudlow, bringing you another battle report. This time it's the second round from our team tournament at Darkside Comics in February. This is down in Sarasota, Florida. This is my Skaven and Jason's Empire up against the Vampire Counts and the Lizardmen. Now, our armory lists, mine and Jason's, are both gone over in our first round game, and I'll give you the link for that one. For the Vampire Counts and the Lizardmen, I'll go over things as we go through deployment. Our scenario for this round is one where there is a forest in the middle that actually does damage to any models that are within it. This forest will also move at the end of turn 3. The advantage is that it gives double your battle points for whoever has the most unengaged models inside of it. Now, for bonus points, you get a bonus point for killing off a core unit of your opponent, and for killing your opponent's highest cost unit. 1 bonus point per each. Maximum of 3 for the core units. They win the roll for board edge and choose the right side, so me and Jason are up on the left. In spell generation, my Warlock Engineer gets Death Frenzy, and I go ahead and have him keep that rather than ditching it for Warp Lightning. I'm figuring Death Frenzy might be better for our side in the long run. Then my Grey Seer gets Wither, Blessed with Filth, Plague, and the Dreaded 13th. The best spells I could hope for out of that one. I got everything that I wanted, really. Jason has a level 2 caster, and he goes for the Lore of Metal. He has Searing Doom and Enchanted Blades of Iban. Now Brian, playing the Vampire Counts, he has a level 4 with the Lore of Vampires, who also gets a +3 to his casting attempts. This guy is nasty. But he gets Invocation of Nehek, Van Hell's Dance Macabre, Curse of Years, and something else, but it doesn't get cast, so we don't worry about that one. And then Chris is playing the Lizardman, and I believe he has a level 2, or maybe he has a level 3, with the Lore of Heavens, and the only spell we get out of the guy, the Skink Priest, is the Ice Shard Blizzard, and I don't remember which other ones he has. But it's a very well painted model. The feathers coming out of his hat were very intricate, very elaborate. I wish I'd gotten a picture of that. If I see him at Crucible 3, I will make sure to grab some pictures to show you guys. For deployment, me and Jason start first. We throw our war machines down, and they respond with some zombies and some salamanders. I put my slaves in the forest on our next placement. It turns out to be a fungus forest, so okay, stupid slaves, but as long as I keep them close to the general, we'll be alright. We start going through the rest of deployment, and they put a couple of large units of crypt horrors right across from our center, where I end up putting my slaves and my clan rats. And behind that, they end up putting a mortis engine, which is nice because you're blocked by monstrous infantry, so there's a decent chance that a cannonball won't kill off a crypt horror and won't actually make it into the mortis engine. It's a very nice tactic to use, very smart play. These both of the people that we're playing against are definitely seasoned players. They know how to keep themselves alive. Shooting for both of our armies ends up kind of piling at the bottom because the Lizardmen have most of it and the Empire has most of it on our side. So Jason kind of being on the lower side of the board, as we're standing behind it, you're tempted to put your units in front of where you are. So Jason's on the lower side, so he puts his handgunners and his state troops down there. And of course, Chris is on the lower side on their side, and so he puts his salamanders and his skinks down there as well. Kind of by design, our shooting is going to fire across at each other. At least we're anticipating that. The important part of the setup is up at the top. I had already put my hell pit down there, thinking, okay, there's not a whole lot up there. There's some zombies up there. Hell pit should be able to do a good job of chewing through those, and he's got warpstone spikes, so he has a chance of actually hitting the Banshee, character that the Vampire Counts have, and Hex Wraiths. So Hell pit is up there. Jason goes ahead and puts his cavalry on the far side of the Hell pit. We're thinking, okay, we can get in and kind of try to do a flank charge and kind of chew through things, but having them down at the bottom, open target for the salamanders, wasn't a good idea. The only good part for us is that he countered the cavalry with the Hex Wraiths. And the only good side was that hell pit was really close enough to actually be able to protect those guys. Mortis engine comes down, and the only other thing of note is that the Saurus for the Lizardmen, down at the bottom, they're stuck slightly behind those salamanders. It's going to take them a couple of turns to get out and kind of make their way through to try to get towards combat. I go ahead and put my gutter runners right in front of the pterodactyls. I know they don't stand a chance. The pterodactyls and the salamanders are going to shoot into them like crazy. I basically use them to try to block that vanguard move from the pterodactyls. Otherwise, the dactyls are going to try to sweep across behind us and try to take out war machines. I'm like, okay, it's better off take the gutter runners as a sacrifice. There's no place that I can put them behind their line, so might as well be as effective as I can in front of their line. We get the +1, so we grab the first turn roll, and we start out. First thing, I have the Hell Pit go for those Hex Wraiths, and we get a big distance out of them. It wasn't huge, but I think it ended up being like 13 or 14 inches, which was really nice because it allows them to cut across the front side of the cavalry and move far enough so that the cavalry can still move across the backside of the Hell Pit. Even though I don't realize it at the time, this is probably the most important move of our entire game as far as the outcome goes. I don't want to spoil how it turns out, but that's a very important move right there. Gutter runners move with the pterodactyls, because why not? Just move into close range. Maybe I can do enough to take them down a notch, and maybe I can have them panic. That's the only real choice the gutter runners have of trying to get some points for their point value. Our first magic phase is 10 versus 5. Jason goes for Enchanted Blades of Iban on the handgunner unit, and then he goes for Searing Doom, but Searing Doom fails. I've got 5 dice, and I could cast Bless with Filth or Death Frenzy if I wanted to. I'm too far away, I believe, for Dreaded 13th, and I don't really want to risk a miscast anyway, even if I was within range. So I just go ahead and discard my dice. I don't even use them. On to shooting. The cannon shoots for the Mortis engine, kills off a Crypt Ghoul, and makes it to the Mortis engine, puts 2 wounds on it. Warp Lightning Cannon shoots for the Mortis engine as well. It misfires, spins, and takes out 9 slaves. So that's how I roll. Gutter Runners manage to kill off one of the dactyls. Then the handgunners shoot for the pterodactyls as well, but fail to wound, and that ends our turn. Over to the vampires and lizardmen. The Hex Wraiths move up, but they don't want to mess with the Hell Pits. They're trying to find a way to get around them. The other guys move up a little bit, but not a whole lot. They're kind of keeping their distance. I want to see what's really going on. Magic is 5 versus 4 for their side. They use 2 for Ice Shard Blizzard, I believe, on one of the handgunner units, and I fail to dispel that one. Then there's 1 die for Invocation of Nehek, and he rolls a 3, but he gets +7 because of his vampire. He regains the wounds on the Crypt Horrors and onto the Mortis engine as well because of his lore attribute. But they do give us a little return of the favor as he rolls Snake Eyes on 2 dice for Curse of Years, so the spell fails. So at least that went our way. For their shooting, the Salamanders shoot for the Gunrunners and get 4 wounds. There's 1 guy left. He fails his panic. He runs 11 inches. He's just like running down the front of their line. The second one shoots and actually ends up overshooting them with the template, so he's still alive. And then the pterodactyls take a shot, but with an intervening unit and the gutter runner being a skirmisher, they needed 7s or possibly 8s to wound. And he didn't take any wounds. He's still alive. 1 little guy sitting out there. The cavalry now go ahead and charge the zombies successfully. The Hell Pit continues his blocking maneuver on the Hex Wraiths, just as long as he can cover the flank of the cavalry, because if the Hex Wraiths get in there, there's nothing the cavalry can do, and they're going to be stuck and they're just going to die. Gutter Runner fails to rally, does a little more running, stretching the legs. How fast can you run? Fast as a Gutter Runner. Then Magic is 4 versus 3. As a late effect, I had completely forgotten to roll for Warpstone tokens and I ended up getting 3 of them. I use 1 plus my 2 dice and go for Plague on the ghouls. They go for a Dispel, but I still get the cast off, and it ends up killing off 8 of the ghouls. Then it spreads over to the Crypt Horrors. I don't want to spread it into the zombies because then it would affect the cavalry as well. It would affect everybody in that combat. So I have it spread the other direction, hits the Crypt Horrors but doesn't wound anything, and then the spell dies. I'm not entirely sure what we do with the other 2 dice, but I don't think it ends up having a great deal of effect. For our shooting, Cannon goes for the Mortis Engine again, and Jason follows my lead, misfires, and explodes. You're making me proud right there. Warp Lightning Cannon manages to hit the Mortis Engine, but it saves the wound. Handgunners go for the Pterodactyls, but fail to get any wounds out of that one as well, so a wonderful shooting phase for us. Combat is a bit of a different story, however. The Cav go in and do 8 wounds to the zombies, and the cavalry don't take any in return. End up getting 9 zombies down from the crumbling effect, and that is a very good combat for us. Now it's Lizardmen and Vampires time, and ghouls go ahead and charge the flank of the cavalry. And Lizardmen have the snake unit behind them go ahead and join in as well. Why not? Put some poison in there. Magic is, I think, 9 versus 7. They use the first 2 for Invocation of Nehek, and we go ahead and dispel this one with a scroll. We're intent on trying to kill that Mortis Engine, and we just can't do it if it's going to keep regaining its wounds every time. Then he uses 1 die for Van Hels on the ghouls, and I have to use the 3 of mine to try to dispel that. And if we were looking at the clock, we wouldn't have worried about this that much anyway, but we still were. Next 2 for Ice Shard Blizzard on the handgunners. We let that one go. Okay, they're not doing a lot of damage as it is. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And we wanted Jason to keep a hold of all of his dice because their last spell is an attempt at Curse of Years on the cavalry. So Jason goes ahead, rolls all 4 of his, and dispels it. Shooting time, the Gutter Runner runs like crazy, fights the good fight, but it's not enough to save him. He ends up dying. And another one of the Salamanders roasts the Clan Rats for 5 wounds, and also ends up putting a wound on the Engineer as well. A little bit of yikes, but they're still kicking. Continuing with our combat, the cavalry do 7 wounds and are able not to take any in return again. 5 wounds go into crumbling, so ghouls take 5, one of the snake swarms takes 5, and the Banshee is the only one left out of the zombie unit, and she takes 5 wounds and dies. There's only 15 minutes left for us to play at this point, which is not enough time. We agree that we can't play another full round, so we go ahead and call the game there. It's always a shame with the team games you don't get to play as much as you'd like to. It's slower because you're trying to coordinate with your team member about spells and about shooting and about your tactics and everything. And we're also playing at 3,000 points instead of 2,500, so it's a little bit tough, but it was still a lot of fun. In the end, we only lose my Gutter Runners unit and Jason's cannon versus their zombies and the Banshee. So point-wise, it ends up being a draw, and we get 1 bonus point for killing off a core unit. The strangest thing was it really came down to that very first roll from the Hell Pit, getting across the cavalry and making it to where the cavalry could actually get into combat, get us enough points just to fight for the draw. It's very strange that the rolls you don't think are going to be that important kind of cascade into the later effects of the game. Even though this wasn't the most exciting or exhilarating game, and not tactically the most wonderful game that there was, it was incredibly enjoyable. Playing with Brian and Chris and Jason, we had a lot of fun, a lot of jokes. Even though we took the game seriously, we enjoyed it a lot along the way. And I look forward to seeing both of them and possibly playing them in Crucible 3 coming up. So that's going to be a kick. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure to leave some comments, like the video if you want to see more of them, and send me a message if you got any tactics or matchups you'd like to see. And until next time, you guys, keep fighting.